I've been on the bench a long time, over 40 years of watching people walk in with excuses, fear, anger, and sometimes real regret. My father raised me with one rule that never changed. You stand up for what's right, even when it's hard. In court, that idea becomes simple. We all follow the same rules. Not because I like rules, but because rules are what keep the weak from being crushed by the powerful. That morning was Tuesday, October 17th, Providence, Rhode Island. Courtroom B docket number 24 TR 11807. The clerk called the case at 9:12 a.m. sharp. I still remember because my coffee was barely warm and I was already tired in my bones. The room was full. You can always feel when the crowd is waiting for drama. State versus Vincent DeLuca, my clerk said. The name didn't ring a bell yet, but the way people turned their heads told me it would. Then I saw him. Vincent DeLuca, age 28, tall, hair slicked back like he paid someone $100 just to comb it. He wore a black designer suit that looked like it never met a wrinkle. I noticed the details because I've seen this kind of man before, the kind who wants the whole room to know he has money. The suit looked like Tom Ford. The belt buckle flashed gold like it was begging for attention. His watch was a Rolex Submariner, the kind that costs more than some people's cars. And when he put his hands on the defense table, the ring on his finger caught the lights. Diamond, big, loud. Behind him stood two friends, both in sunglasses indoors, both with that same smirk, like court was a joke, like we were all extras in their movie. And then came the part that made my stomach tighten. Vincent didn't walk in alone. He had a man with him who looked like muscle, but not the sloppy kind. This man had that stiff posture, short haircut, clean shave, dark suit, plain tie, earpiece wire tucked neat behind the ear. He scanned the room like it was his job, a Secret Service agent. Or at least that's what Vincent wanted everyone to believe. And I'm telling you right now, people do that. They borrow authority like it's a costume. They rent power the way you rent a tux, and they think it will make a judge blink first. The charge was a moving violation, but it wasn't simple. It started as reckless driving. Then it turned into something ugly. The officer who wrote it was Officer Daniel Reyes, badge 0147, Providence Police Traffic Unit. He was in court, uniform pressed, face calm, eyes tired. He held his folder like he'd been up all night. I read his notes. The stop happened at 10:47 p.m. on September 29th on Dyer Street near the highway ramp. Speed alleged 82 miles per hour in a 35 zone. The officer wrote, rapid lane changes, no signal, aggressive acceleration, nearly struck pedestrian at crosswalk, nearly struck a person. That person was also in court. Her name was Marisol Vega, age 34, a nurse at Rhode Island Hospital, single mother, 2 kids. One of them, her son Eli, was 8 and had asthma bad enough that she kept an inhaler in every bag she owned. She was small, wearing scrubs under a cheap jacket because she came straight from the night shift. Her shoes were the kind nurses buy when they can't afford to sit down. She stood in the back, hands folded, like she was praying the room wouldn't swallow her. Officer Reyes told me she was in the crosswalk when that car screamed past, and the car was not just any car, it was a bright green Lamborghini Huracan, custom wrap, loud exhaust, the kind that announces itself from 2 blocks away. The officer wrote the plate in his report, Rhode Island Vanity Plate, VIN 28. That made the crowd murmur because of course it did. Vincent leaned back in his chair like he was at a restaurant waiting for the menu. I looked at Marisol again. Her eyes were red, not from makeup, from exhaustion, from fear that still hadn't left her body weeks later. You can see trauma even when someone tries to hide it. Ms. Vega, I said gently, you're the pedestrian listed in the report? She nodded. Yes, Your Honor. Her voice was soft, but steady, a dignified soft, the kind that makes you want to protect someone. I turned to Vincent. Mr. DeLuca, you're charged with reckless driving and failure to yield to a pedestrian in a marked crosswalk. Vincent smiled like I said something funny. His lawyer stood up, expensive haircut too, briefcase that looked like it cost more than my first car. He introduced himself as Attorney Charles Halloway. He spoke fast, smooth, like his words were oiled. Your Honor, my client disputes the characterization, he said. He is a responsible professional. There are unique circumstances. That phrase always makes me suspicious. Unique circumstances is what people say when they think normal truth won't work. I nodded. Officer Reyes, tell me what happened. Reyes stepped forward. Your Honor, I was running stationary radar at 10:47 p.m. I clocked a vehicle at 82 and a 35. The vehicle was a green Lamborghini. It was weaving. I observed it approach the crosswalk at Pine and Dyer. The pedestrian had the signal and was already crossing. The vehicle did not slow. The pedestrian had to jump backward. I initiated stop. Vehicle pulled over at 10:49 p.m. near the river lot. I watched Vincent's face while the officer spoke. No remorse, no worry, just boredom. Reyes continued. Driver identified as Vincent DeLuca, date of birth June 3, 1997. He was argumentative. He refused to provide insurance at first. He stated, quote, "Do you know who I am?" End quote. That line again. Always that line. Then Reyes added, he had 2 passengers. They recorded me on their phones and laughed. One of them said, quote, "This cop makes 30 grand a year." End quote. Marisol flinched at the laughter memory. She didn't even need to hear it again. It was still living inside her. I looked at Vincent. Did you say that to the officer? Vincent shrugged. I might have. People were overreacting. Nobody got hit. He said nobody got hit like it was some kind of gift, like the victim should thank him for not killing her. Marisol took a small breath, and I saw her hands shake just a little. I've seen men like Vincent. They treat near misses like trophies. They don't understand that the law doesn't wait for blood. Then I noticed the man behind Vincent again. The one with the earpiece. My courtroom has a rule. It's simple. When I enter, everyone stands. Not because I need my ego fed. It's because the court is a place of respect. It reminds everyone, even the person with no money, that the process matters. So when I sat down, I expected what I always expect. People stood. People sat. The room settled. But that man stayed standing the whole time, not in a respectful way, in a guarding way, like he was positioned to block something. Then when I asked for order, I saw something else. When my clerk announced, "All rise," earlier that morning, that same man had not risen with the crowd. He had stayed seated in my courtroom, while everyone else stood, and he did it like he wanted me to notice, like a silent flex. Now, I'm not quick to anger. I've had defendants curse at me, cry, beg, even spit. But something about a person refusing to stand, on purpose, in front of the public, sends a message. It says, I am above this. I leaned forward. Sir, I said, looking right at him, when the court enters, you stand. The man didn't move. Vincent smirked, like this was the show he came for. The man said, calm as ice, I don't stand on command. The room made a sound all at once, a little gasp, a whisper wave. I held my face steady. Inside, I felt heat. Excuse me, I said. He finally looked at me. I'm federal. I'm on protective detail. Protective detail. Protecting who? Vincent DeLuca, a reckless driver in a Lamborghini? I've worked with real federal agents before. Secret Service, FBI, U.S. Marshals. They're professional. They don't try to dominate a municipal courtroom. They respect the system because they know what happens when people stop respecting it. So I asked the question I always ask when someone wants authority without proof. Name and badge, I said. He paused. Too long. Agent Marcus Hale, he replied. Badge 7712. Officer Reyes raised his eyebrows just slightly, like even he knew something was off. I wrote it down. Agent Hale, I said, in this court we stand, federal or not. He said, not happening. Vincent's friend snickered, loud, like a teenager in class. I turned to Vincent. Mr. DeLuca, I said, is this person with you? Vincent leaned forward. He's here because I have serious business, Judge. I can't be disrespected like some nobody. And right then, the air shifted. Because when a man says some nobody, he's telling you exactly who he thinks deserves dignity. Marisol looked down at the floor, like she'd been slapped. Officer Reyes tightened his jaw, and I felt something old and steady rise in me. The voice of my father, the lessons of my neighborhood, the truth I've learned after decades. The courtroom is the one room where nobody is supposed to become somebody again. I took a breath. Mr. DeLuca, I said, you're here because the law says you answer for your choices, not because you're special. Vincent laughed. He actually laughed. And at that moment, I knew we weren't dealing with a simple traffic ticket anymore. Here's a challenge for you right now. If you believe respect still matters, stay with me through the next few minutes, because I want to see if you can guess the exact moment Vincent's confidence started to crack. I went back to the evidence. Officer Reyes, I said, did you have dash cam? Yes, Your Honor, he said, body cam and cruiser cam. The prosecutor, Ms. Lillian Park, Assistant City Solicitor, stood up with a flash drive. We have Exhibit A, Your Honor. We played the video, and you could feel the room hold its breath. The Lamborghini's engine sounded like a weapon. The camera caught it coming fast, too fast. Marisol was already in the crosswalk. The light was in her favor. You could see her take 2 steps, then freeze when she saw that green blur. Then she jumped backward. Her bag flew off her shoulder. If she had moved 1 step wrong, we'd be talking about a funeral. The defense lawyer tried to object. Your Honor, the angle. I held up my hand. I have eyes, I said. Vincent didn't look away. He watched himself on the screen like it was a highlight reel. Then came the stop footage. Officer Reyes approached the window. He spoke calm. License and registration, please. Vincent's voice on the video was loud and cocky. I'm not doing all this. I got places to be. Reyes. Sir, you were traveling 82 in a 35. Vincent. So? That's what the car is built for. Then one of the passengers, voice high and laughing. Bro, tell him your dad knows the governor. Vincent. Exactly. This is a waste of time. I glanced at Marisol. Tears sat in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. That kind of strength breaks your heart. The prosecutor stepped forward. Your Honor, she said, we also have the written statement from Ms. Vega, and we have her hospital time card showing she clocked out at 10:38 p.m. She was walking to her car in the employee lot. Marisol added quietly, I was just trying to go home. My kids were with my sister. I promised them I'd be there before midnight. My chest tightened. Kids waiting at home. A mother trying to keep a promise. Vincent rolled his eyes. She's fine. Look at her. Everybody's so dramatic. I looked right at him. You know what's dramatic, Mr. DeLuca. A mother not coming home. That landed. For a second, Vincent's smile thinned. Then his fake agent shifted like he didn't like me talking that way. I turned to the man again. Agent Hale, I said. I'm not going to repeat myself. Stand when addressed. He said, no. The room started murmuring. I heard someone whisper, is that even real Secret Service? I kept my voice calm. Calm is power in court. Bailiff, I said. My bailiff, Sergeant Tom Kelleher, stepped closer. Big man, gray hair, 25 years in law enforcement, gentle with victims, hard with bullies. Yes, Judge. I pointed with my eyes, not my finger. Identify that man. Kelleher leaned in slightly. Sir, please provide credentials. The man's face stayed flat. I don't show credentials to local security. Local security. My bailiff is not local security. He's a sworn officer, and more than that, he's part of the dignity of the room. Vincent smirked again, like he loved the disrespect. Then the prosecutor said something that added another layer. Your Honor, Ms. Park said, Officer Reyes's report indicates the driver also threw cash on the ground, $30, and he said, quote, buy yourself a real job. The courtroom made a disgusted sound. Marisol closed her eyes like she wished she could disappear. Vincent leaned back. That's not what I meant. I stared at him. What did you mean then? He shrugged. I mean, people like him, they're always looking for overtime. He was just trying to ruin my night. Officer Reyes didn't respond. He didn't need to. The video had already shown the truth. And then Ms. Park said, we also have Exhibit B, the defendant's vehicle data. The Lamborghini has a telematics app. It logged 84 miles per hour at 10:47 p.m. It logged rapid acceleration from 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds. The defense lawyer looked annoyed now, not confident. Annoyed. Vincent's jaw clenched. A new dramatic element right there every few minutes. That's how the truth works. It stacks. I turned to Vincent. Do you understand what reckless driving is? He said, It's a ticket. I said, It can also be a criminal charge. And when you nearly strike a pedestrian, it becomes more than a ticket. It becomes a question of who you think matters. He scoffed. Come on. This isn't real court. This is like small people court. Small people court. There it was. The class poison out loud. The room went cold. I felt my face stay calm, but my voice got lower. Let me tell you something, Mr. DeLuca. In here there are no small people. He smiled like he wanted to push further, and then he did. He looked at me and said, No offense, Judge, but you probably don't even know what that car costs. This whole place smells like broke. That insult hit the room like a slap. Marisol's head snapped up. Officer Reyes's eyes narrowed. Even the defense lawyer flinched, like he didn't authorize that. I paused, and then I smiled. Not because it was funny, because I knew something Vincent didn't. And if you're curious why I smiled, don't blink. The next thing I noticed turned this from a traffic case into a national story. Ms. Park cleared her throat. Your Honor, she said, before we proceed to disposition, the city received additional evidence at 2:23 a.m. this morning. Vincent's head turned fast. What evidence? She held up her phone. Social media, public posts, Instagram story, TikTok. The courtroom leaned in as one body. Ms. Park continued, the defendant posted a video at 11:06 p.m. on September 29th, about 15 minutes after the stop. The caption reads, Almost clipped a hospital rat tonight. Cops mad 'cause I'm not poor. Marisol made a small sound, like her lungs forgot how to work. I felt my stomach drop. Ms. Park said, he also tagged the location, Dyer Street, and in the video he laughs and says, Watch me beat this in Caprio's little court. My name, on his video. The crowd erupted into whispers. Vincent's face changed, not fear yet, something like irritation, like someone spilled sauce on his shirt. That's not even, he started. Ms. Park swiped again. There's more. His friend posted a Snapchat. It shows the officer's face. It zooms in on his badge, and they added text. Badge 0147. Hope your kids like ramen. Officer Reyes's cheeks flushed. I looked at Reyes. Officer, I said quietly, are you okay? He nodded once, but his eyes were glassy. Not because he was weak, because humiliation is a weapon, and they used it like a game. Vincent muttered, People post stuff. It's jokes. Jokes, I repeated. A nurse almost gets hit. An officer does his job, and you call it jokes. Vincent leaned forward. Why do you care? You're just a judge. This is your little kingdom. I live in the real world. I said, You live in a world where you think money makes you untouchable. He smiled again, then delivered the nastiest part. He looked at my bench, at my robe, and said, No disrespect, but you're like an old guy in a costume. You probably rode the bus here. The room gasped, and then the man behind him, Agent Hale, finally stood, not out of respect, out of threat. That was the moment my bailiff stepped closer, and I said very softly, Sit down, sir. Agent Hale didn't sit. He said, You don't tell me what to do. I stared at him. In my courtroom, I do. He smirked. Not when it's national security. National security. Over a Lamborghini traffic stop. That's when I knew the Secret Service story was a bluff. And bluffs are dangerous because people get bold when they think the badge is fake-proof armor. Ms. Park spoke again. Your Honor, there is also an issue of impersonation. Vincent snapped his head. What? She said, the individual claiming to be Secret Service has been identified by Providence Police as Marcus Hale, age 32, formerly employed as private security. No federal employment record located. The courtroom went from whispering to buzzing. The agent clenched his jaw. Vincent's face went pale, just a shade. Ms. Park continued, Additionally, the vehicle's registration and insurance are under a shell company, DeLuca Holdings LLC. We contacted the Secretary of State Registry. The listed agent is a law office in Boston, and the phone number is disconnected. The defense lawyer finally stood up, real panic creeping into his voice. Your Honor, this is beyond the scope of... I held up my hand. No, I said. This is exactly the scope of court, because when someone lies in court, it becomes a new problem. I looked at Vincent. You brought a fake federal agent into my courtroom. Vincent swallowed. He's real. I said, then we can confirm it in 5 minutes. I nodded to my clerk. Call the U.S. Secret Service field office and call the U.S. Marshal's liaison, right now. My clerk moved fast. Phones in the back started ringing. Vincent tried to laugh. You're doing all this over a speeding ticket? I leaned forward. No, I'm doing it because you tried to bend the room. And then I said the line that later went everywhere online. I have never been impressed by a man who needs someone else's badge to feel tall. The crowd murmured approval. Vincent's eyes narrowed. This is why people like me leave places like this. You all hate success. I said, no, we hate cruelty. My clerk returned with a look I'll never forget. Wide-eyed. Serious. Judge, she whispered, Secret Service says they have no Agent Marcus Hale, badge number not theirs. The fake agent's face twitched. Vincent's lawyer put a hand on Vincent's arm like he wanted to stop the bleeding. But Vincent kept talking. He couldn't help himself. This is a joke, he said. My family donates more than your salary. You're going to embarrass yourself. That was the class-based insult, sharpened to a point. My salary, my worth, my place. I looked at Marisol again, and I thought about her night shift, her kids, her promise to get home. Then I looked at Reyes, and I thought about the humiliation, the Snapchat, the badge zoom, and I decided the room was going to learn something today. If you're still with me, here's the part everyone asks about. The very next person who walked through that door made Vincent's knees go weak. The bailiff opened the side door at 9:41 a.m. A man entered in a dark suit, real federal posture, real calm, no swagger, just authority that didn't need to show off. He introduced himself. Special Agent Nora Kim, U.S. Secret Service, Providence Field Office. The whole room went silent. Vincent's mouth opened slightly, then closed. Agent Kim walked to the front, showed credentials properly, and nodded to me with respect. Good morning, Your Honor. I nodded back. Good morning, Agent Kim. Thank you for coming quickly. She turned to the fake agent. Marcus Hale, she said, like she already knew him. You are not Secret Service. Hale's face hardened. I'm private. Agent Kim said, You're also under investigation for impersonating a federal officer. That is a federal offense under 18 U.S.C. Paragraph 912. Vincent's lawyer whispered fast into Vincent's ear. I couldn't hear the words, but I knew the flavor. Damage control. Panic. Agent Kim continued. We also have an interest in Mr. Vincent DeLuca. The Lamborghini is connected to an ongoing investigation involving counterfeit credentials and wire fraud. Wire fraud. Now we weren't in traffic court territory anymore. Now we were in the world Vincent thought he owned. Vincent stood up. No, that's not... Agent Kim held up a hand. Mr. DeLuca, you posted online. You used the words national security and Secret Service as a threat. That draws attention. Vincent looked at me, and for the first time he didn't look amused. He looked scared, not because he cared about Marisol, not because he cared about Reyes, because someone with real power had arrived and it wasn't his father. I asked Agent Kim, are you confirming the individual is not an agent? She said, confirmed, and we request the court hold Mr. Hale for the marshals. My bailiff stepped in. Hale took one step back, like he might run. Then he realized there was nowhere to go. Kelleher cuffed him, calm, professional, no drama, just reality. The sound of cuffs is a sound that strips away fantasy. Vincent's friends stopped smiling. Vincent's luxury suit suddenly looked like a costume too. I turned to Vincent. Mr. DeLuca, I said, you tried to intimidate this court. You tried to humiliate an officer. You mocked a nurse online after nearly hurting her, and you brought an impersonator into this room. Vincent whispered, "I didn't know." Agent Kim said, "Your Honor, our office has reason to believe he did know." Vincent's lawyer spoke quickly. "Your Honor, we request a continuance." I said, "Denied." Vincent snapped, "You can't do this to me." I leaned forward. "I can and I will, because this is the real world, not your comment section." Marisol's chin trembled. I could see she was fighting tears again. I asked her, "Ms. Vega, how has this affected you?" She took a breath. I don't walk to my car alone anymore, Your Honor. I make someone come with me. And my son, he asked me why I didn't come home on time. I didn't want to tell him I almost got hit. He's already scared when I leave for work." That did it. That broke the room. Even Vincent's lawyer looked down. Vincent, though, tried one last nasty move. He looked at Marisol and said, "You're acting like I stabbed you. You're just a nurse. Just a nurse." I felt my voice deepen. "In my life, nurses have saved more souls than men like you ever will." Agent Kim shifted slightly, like she respected that line. I looked at the charges. Reckless driving, failure to yield, and now contempt issues, intimidation, and referral for federal review based on the impersonation and online threats. I spoke slowly so every word would stick. "Mr. DeLuca, you want to know what court is? Court is the place where money stops talking." Vincent shook his head. "This is insane." I said, "No, what's insane is driving 82 in a 35 and laughing about it on the internet." Then I sentenced him. In Rhode Island, reckless driving carries penalties. I considered everything: the speed, the crosswalk, the humiliation, the online mocking, the attempted intimidation, the fake agent stunt, the lack of remorse. I looked him straight in the eye. "Here's my sentence," I said. 1 year suspension of your license, maximum statutory fine on reckless driving, court costs, and I'm ordering 300 hours of community service." Vincent barked a laugh. "Community service? That's it?" I said, "You're going to do those hours at Rhode Island Hospital." His smile vanished. I continued, "Not in an office, not doing charity photo ops. You will work where they tell you: cleaning, transport, laundry. You will wear the same plain scrubs everyone else wears, no designer belt, no Rolex, nothing that screams, 'I'm better than you.'" Vincent's face tightened. "You can't make me do that." I said, "I can, and I am." Then I added the part that made people in the room whisper, "Wow." "You will also attend a victim impact panel, and you will write a letter of apology to Ms. Vega and Officer Reyes. A real letter, not typed by your lawyer, handwritten, and you will read it aloud in this courtroom on January 12th at 9 a.m. Vincent turned red. "That's humiliating." I said, "Good, because humiliation is what you handed out like candy." Agent Kim gave a small nod, like she approved. I looked at him one more time. "And one more thing, you posted about Caprio's little court. I want you to understand something. This little court is where people learn to be human again. You came in acting like a king. You're leaving as a student." Vincent's shoulders slumped. The reality hit him like a wave. No Lamborghini roar could drown it out. My bailiff escorted him out. His friends didn't follow with their swagger anymore. They followed like kids who got caught. After the courtroom emptied, Marisol stayed behind for a moment. She came up to the rail, careful, respectful. "Thank you," she said. "I didn't think anyone would believe me." He looked important. I nodded. "You are important," I told her. "You go home to those kids, and you keep your head up." She wiped one tear and smiled, just a little. That case went viral later that day because someone in the gallery posted the audio, the clip of me saying, "Money stops talking," and "I have never been impressed by a man who needs someone else's badge to feel tall," spread like wildfire. People argued in comments. Some called it harsh, most called it overdue. But here's what I believe after decades on the bench. Justice is not about how loud you can shout. It's not about your suit, your car, your followers, or your last name. Justice is about whether you can look at another human being and understand that their life is not your playground. In my courtroom, the nurse matters, the officer matters, the single mother matters, the person who takes the bus matters, the person who cleans the hospital floor at 3 a.m. matters, and the person who thinks they're above all that, they get reminded.